bottom line, depending on who you want to talk to. And yet, the NDP will continue to say, as they have for the last 5 or 6 years, that somehow the catastrophe that has hit this industry is the responsible of provincial Liberals in the province of Ontario. They'll continue to sing from the same song sheet because they know no other. I want to draw also, Speaker, a distinction for people when we talk about the forest products industry in any province. When they continue to attach the cost of energy to the job losses that have occurred in the wood products industry, there is a significant energy cost in part of it, the pulp and paper side, and only if they use a process that's called TMP, or thermal mechanical pulping. And we have provided assistance there. But in the sawmilling industry, where there has been significant job loss all across Ontario, in British Columbia, in Quebec, in the United States, in the sawmilling industry, electricity pricing is hardly even ever mentioned or on the table as a significant contributor to the bottom line costs of those operating sawmills. It's not a significant factor when it comes to the cost of operating a sawmill. So all of those job losses that have occurred in sawmills over the last 6, 8, 10 years are not connected to energy pricing in any way, shape, or form, and you won't hear the large sawmill guys talking about it. If you want to offer them energy rate relief, of course they'll say yes. They'll step up to the front of the line. Who wouldn't take it lower if they could get it lower? But to suggest that energy pricing has something to do with the closures of sawmills is absolutely incredible. They are very different. Nobody wants to talk about the decline in newsprint because they know that the demand for that particular product has shrunk in some quarters by as much as 50%. Companies have merged so they could take commodity out of the market, so they could try and prop up the commodity price of newsprint because there is not a significant demand for the product as there used to be 5 and 10 years ago. And that demand is not likely to come back, although I do hear from some that it's possible they could start identifying new export markets overseas. I'm not sure, but some people say there is some hope for that there. But at this point, Speaker, newsprint demand, the appreciation of the Canadian dollar, and not to mention a pretty significant credit crisis. Not to mention a pretty significant credit crisis. One in my riding that's in CCAA in the United States has a $6.2 billion debt. Not sure how that happened. Somehow that was our fault too. But a $6.2 billion debt. And when the credit crisis hit in the United States, well, guess what? The banks are calling in their loans. $6.2 billion, not an insignificant amount. Speaker, there's the second part of the budget that was significant for Northerners, and again, I'm very proud as Chair of Northern Caucus that we were able to achieve and see included within our budget is our Northern Energy Tax Credit. A permanent tax credit available only to Northerners, and I'll start by suggesting and saying that this is permanent, it is there, and it will benefit only Northerners. $130 for singles, $200 up to, I should say, $130 for singles, up to $200 for families, and income tested as well. I think the 130 singles credit starts at about $35,000 and goes up to about $48,000, and I think the 200 up to 200 for families starts somewhere around $48,000 and phases out, I think, somewhere around $65,000, give or take. Very significant relief. So many people have had a lot of fun in this legislature and around the province talking about the impact of the HST on families. This credit is only available for Northerners and is in addition to all of the other tax cuts that you've heard referenced here often that are permanent. I want people who are following this on television to remember this stat if they can. If you were able to qualify for up to and receive the maximum as a family, the $200 tax credit, you would have to spend approximately $2,500 on previously PST-exempt goods and services before you would use up that $200. I'm going to repeat that again. If you get the $200 full tax credit, you will have to spend about $2,500 on previously exempt PST items before you will use up that $200 tax credit. And that's only one of the permanent tax reductions that are in place, not only for Northerners, but for all people across the province of Ontario. This is a very, very significant piece, and we're proud to have it. One other of the tax reductions that we've heard of is the 1% reduction on the first $37,000 of income. 93% of people in the province of Ontario are going to pay less tax. 1% on $37,000, and many people are obviously going to qualify for that. 1% is $370. When you take that into income and you're taxed on that, let's say you net $300. We take the $300, we add it to the $200 on the tax credit, $500 times about $1,250 a piece. Now you have to spend $6,000 on previously PST exempt items before you will have used up just those two reductions. And I haven't mentioned the sales tax credits for individuals and families that is means tested. Speaker, all of this is why there is such a broad section of people across the province of Ontario who are supporting the HST. It's why poverty groups are very publicly supporting it. I'm not here to say all, but broad section, whether it's from the poverty side, whether it's from the business side, whether it's municipal leaders, whether it's individuals, there is a broad section of people that are very, very supportive of this. And when you start to add up the permanent reductions, and I know the opposition like to talk about the transitional money and bribing this and buying that. That's the one-time transitional assistance up to $1,300 for singles, up to $1,000 for families. One time, absolutely. But in addition to the one-time money, there is a series of permanent, significant tax reductions, and people need to file their tax returns to make sure they take advantage of all of those tax returns. They need to make sure they do that.